The views and opinions expressed on this show are mine alone, Jackie Barnum, and are not the views and opinions of the Department of Defense or the United States Marine Corps. This episode of The More You Give has been generously provided by Vet Tix. Vet Tix is a wonderful organization that provides entertainment, sporting events, tickets, you name it, to service members, both veterans, currently serving, reservists, any service, first responders. Go to vettix.org. That's VETTIX.org. Go sign up today. Vet Tix is the organization that gives to those that give. Welcome, everybody. I'm super excited because this is the very first episode that we are releasing for The More You Give. I'm your host, Jackie Barnum. Today we have Steven Weintraub here with us from Vet Tix. I just want to dive right into it. I had the pleasure of speaking with you yesterday for quite some time, and I have such I feel like very connected to you, not only logistics officer, 32 years in the Marine Corps. I am turning 30 this year, so I don't know if that hurts or I don't know, but I just I'm just really excited to talk to you. So you are the Chief Strategy Officer at Vet Tix, correct?
That's correct. And thank you, Jackie, for having me and being a part of this. And I in all honesty, I'm honored to be your first guest. And I mean, you know what they say, you always remember your first. So the fact that I get to be the first is quite an honor. So we're going to do this and we're going to build on it.
I'm just excited because I think so. The inception of this podcast was to talk about service and giving. And not only did you dedicate your military career to serving others, but then you decided I'm going to continue down this path. Like, I'm onto something here. Like, I feel this need to continue serving others. I read in your bio, it says that you're dedicated to ensuring that transitioning service members and veterans are connected with resources that assist them with success after their military service. So I just find that so wonderful because obviously, like, as an active duty Marine currently, I feel that my mission is to serve my current Marines that are active duty, and then to continue doing that after, and feeling the call to help the transitioning Marines, service members, first responders. I know that Vet Tix is open to everybody, correct?
Yeah. We have the same thing for first responders. It's called First Tix, one STTIX, okay. And it's the same thing as Vet Tix, but for police, fire, and EMTs, and that includes 911 dispatchers. Because they serve our communities, and we wanted to really offer that same benefit to them as we do for our currently serving members of the military. And that also includes Guard and Reserve. And because a lot of times people say, active duty military, and a significant part of my military career was in the reserves. I spent 10 years on active duty, 32 total. So yeah, 22 in the reserve. I use my fingers because I'm a Marine to count. And whenever I would see, available to active duty military, I would feel disenfranchised because as a reservist, I'm still a currently serving member of the military as our Guard. So a lot of times these organizations say, available to active duty. Well, does that mean reserves and Guard aren't included? Because our Guard and Reserve force comprises about 1 million members. But that's my soapbox on that. I got a lot of soapboxes.
So tell us what Vet Tix is.
Vet Tix, we're a national nonprofit. And what we do is we get donated event tickets. And these event tickets can be to sporting events, concerts, family events, performing arts, anything, a food truck festival, seltzer festivals, anything where there's a ticket involved. And we get these tickets donated, and the donations come from teams, venues, performers, promoters, private donors, people, season ticket holders. And we get these donated tickets and we distribute them to our members, which are currently serving members of the military, veterans of all eras, immediate family members of those killed in the line of duty. And for our first responders, it's current and retired first responders. And we distribute them for free to our members as a way to thank them for their service and their sacrifice, because we know that when you're in uniform, or when you were in uniform, or you're on duty or on watch, you miss life events. It could be the birth of a child, it could be the conception of a child, that was a joke, they could be birthdays, anniversaries, things like that. So you miss out on these life events. So by sending our members to these events for free, it's a way for them to make up for that lost time, and they get to spend it with their family or their friends for a couple hours a day or an evening, just forgetting about all the other stressors in life, and to thank them for their service and their sacrifice. And it's free to join. The cool thing is that it's free to join. You sign up, you get verified, we verify your status, and you fill out some basic information, and then you'll start getting daily emails about events in your area. And if you're interested in them, you click on it, and there's a random selection process. And if you get selected, there's a small delivery fee, and that's skin in the game. You pay a couple bucks for something, you're more likely to use it. And our donors appreciate that, because they donate tickets to these events and they want people to attend. And it's that simple.
What I love about the organization is that it started as, hey, let's give back like that time that was, they sacrificed, or the mission is giving something to those that give. Something along those lines, I think, is what I remember. And I love how it really has grown into something so much more than that. Like, yes, like that black and white is the mission, but the impact that you have on people's lives, and that, from the mental health aspect. Like, I know we chatted about this a little bit yesterday, but can you kind of talk about those testimonials that you receive after events?
Yeah, absolutely. And what happens is that we get, after you go to an event, you'll get an auto-generated email. It'll say, hey, Jackie, I hope you had a good time at Kenny Chesney concert brought to you by, such and such donor. If you'd like to submit a testimonial about your experience, we share these with the donors. And if you want to upload a photo of you at the event, holding a Vet Tix sign or something like that. And for those Vet Tix members that know, you get incentivized for submitting these testimonials, and we share them with our donors so they can see that instant impact of the generosity of their donation. And a lot of these testimonials, they talk about, my buddies and I, they had a great time, we all had a great time or whatever. But some of the, a lot of these, we have over 733,000 testimonials. And a lot of these testimonials, it's like, hey, I brought my buddy, he doesn't like being in crowds, or she's been really isolated after getting out. She doesn't like crowds, loud noises, whatever. And by her going to this event, or us going to this event, she's really turned around, or he's really turned around, and has a new purpose. And the cool thing about these, our process is that most times these tickets are donated in sections or blocks. So you're sitting in the same row, block, section as other veterans, service members, first responders. So you're sitting among your tribe. So even though you may be strangers sitting next to you, you're rooting for a different team. You all wore the uniform, and from a bonding aspect, it's cathartic. And like I said, we've received testimonials about, hey, I brought my buddy to this event, and on the drive home, he said he was going to kill himself today. And after attending this event and being with other veterans and service members, he's got a new, outlook on life. And that's no exaggeration. We get testimonials like that. So the thing is that we created it to give something to those who give back. But what we've also seen is a lot of positive impact, impacting our members with their behavioral health, reintegration, transition out of the military. So that's, I mean, that's a, that's not something that, we anticipated, but we see a lot of that.
I can speak even from experience when I had I was in a situation where I had tickets to a Celtics game, and it was military appreciation night, and they gave us courtside seats, like, but it was like all military members, and of course everyone, like, I was the only, like, there's like myself and someone else is the only Marines, and there's some all services, Navy, everyone around us, and everyone was kind of like, at the first, just, hello, waving, what do you do? Where do you station? This and that. By the end of the game, everyone's like exchanging contact information, like cheersing together, like getting to know each other. And you literally actually that going into that, I just was like, oh, I feel like a fraud because I'm not really the biggest basketball fan. So like, who's playing who? Okay, whatever. These are courtside tickets, baby. Like, I'm going to enjoy it. And then it actually ended up being so much more than I was expecting. Like, the basketball game was like secondary, it was just more about being with people who speak the same language as you, who, appreciate the work that you do, seeing them with their families. They were able to bring their children, their family members, and enjoying that experience as a collective group was what I loved and what I remember. I don't remember a single thing about the game itself, but I remember those connections that I made. And that was what was so special to me.
It is, it's the experience, right? It's the experience of doing it. And that's where, there's no quid pro quo when you receive these tickets. It's not, and not, taking nothing away from your anecdote. It's, hey, you don't have to show up in uniform. If you're currently serving, if you accept these tickets, we're going to parade you at center court, or there's none of that. It's like, you receive the tickets. All we want you to do is attend the event, have a good time, ideally submit a testimonial about your experience that we can share with the donors, and that's it. And so, we actually got a testimonial. This one dude proposed to his girlfriend at, I think it was a George Strait concert. Dude was a Vet Tixer. That's what we call our members, Vet Tixers. So dude was a Vet Tixer. His girlfriend was a Vet Tixer, and he proposed to her at that event because they actually met at a Vet Tix event.
Oh
So
my gosh, that
yeah,
is so cool.
yeah.
Wow. Have you guys ever thought about having like Vet Tix events? Like, is that something? I'm like hire me, like, let me get on your strategy team. Like, I'm like thinking of ideas now, like a Vet Tix wedding, like Vet Tix reality matchmaking show. Like, let's go. I have ideas. But I am curious about just kind of diving into you. Since you had so much military experience, and then you said you were part of other nonprofits, and then being part of Vet Tix, like, how have you continued to apply your experiences and knowledge from the Marine Corps side of the house to now being being in charge of a nonprofit?
We as Marines, or even, some of your viewers that might not be Marines, maybe their spouses, or maybe they're, other services, right? I mean, we get a lot of good education in the service, and a lot of good skills regarding planning, Marine Corps process planning, and McVP, BAMSIS, all that other stuff, right? JJ Turnbuckle got, PTS flashbacks from being enlisted. No offense. But anyway, and the keys to success, like, how do you apply that in the private sector, and even in the nonprofit sector? Because the nonprofit sector a lot of times is less structured. There's less structure than in the private sector, corporate sector, and things like that. And what I realized was, when I got off active duty and as a reservist, tried to apply some of those, things that I learned, and I was able to be successful in the Marine Corps. It didn't always work in the private sector, because it's like, no, you're doing it our way, and we don't care what, and you get this whole thing, oh, military is great, great leaders and things like that. Sometimes when you try and translate it or transition it, and part of that is because we are so direct. Okay. I mean,
Yes.
right. And
Yes.
what we as military members, I would say one of our, um, things we could do better on are soft skills, personal skills. I mean, here's right. And we're finger pointers, and we're very direct. And in the private sector, to include nonprofit, people don't respond well to that. So that was something that I learned, that when in transitioning out, I would, you know, get this done, whatever. And people didn't like hearing it that way. So I really had to tone down, a lot of my approaches and things like that. So that's, I mean, I say cautionary tale, as you're transitioning out, or, you're having challenges trying to get started on the outside. But in the private sector, like I said, it especially in the nonprofit, it's not as structured, but that works to our favor, right? Because especially in the Marine Corps, we're good at decentralized command and communication. And what that means also is working on the fly. That the saying, no plan, survives,
Survives first
initial.
contact.
Exactly, right.
I
And
passed.
yep, and it's the same thing in the private sector. I mean, a lot of times you've got a plan, you've got a strategic plan, and that's, we plan in the military, right? Like 30, 60, 90, 180 months, out or whatever. And it doesn't always come to fruition, and we don't we don't shit all over ourselves for that, right? And it's the same thing in the private sector. So how resilient are you? And that's one of our greatest skills as military members, is our adaptability. We're able to adapt, pivot, work on the fly, and that really, worked. I was able to identify that and build on that as I transitioned out.
I feel like I'm even facing that sort of not struggle, but that transition. Yeah, because I would even argue that services kind of interact differently and have different ways of communicating. So I work at a Navy command right now, and I came in like hard charging, like aggressive Marine. I'm used to the same thing, like as few words as possible, like just get it done. And that was not really well received. So I had to like recalibrate myself even now, and I'm even still learning that. And even like I'm getting a master's right now, and in my class, it's all about being verbose and like being thoughtful. And I'm like, I'm just like I'm the only Marine in my class, and I'm like, I'm just like a Marine. We are supposed to say what we mean very quickly and just get on with it. So like I'm struggling with that, like because the Marine teaches us like to be efficient and quick, and aggressive with how we speak. So I think that's interesting how, I mean, I could totally see how in the private sector, you definitely have to address things a certain way. And I imagine you have to give more of the why behind it. Cause as Marines, we are the like, shut up and color. Okay. I'm going to go sprinting in that direction because you just told me to. So I would imagine working with other people that would be very interesting for sure.
The biggest challenge I had, and we face this because it's embedded into us as Marines, it's very high standards, right? I mean, we are perfectionists. And the thing that I finally cracked the code, I turned the corner. And when I did that, things got so much easier for me, in business and even in life and relationships. And that is that, going back to, leadership principles and things like that, know yourself, seek self-improvement, things like that, right? Well, my biggest problem was that I expected of others what I expect of myself. And, when we're in uniform, that's the way it is, right? I mean, top tier, A plus performers. But in life and in business and things like that, your peers, your subordinates, and even sometimes your seniors don't operate at that level that you expect them to. So really it's expectation management. So when I started really lowering my expectations of other people, boy, my life got so much easier.
We touched on educating the masses, and that really stood out to me as something that you're very passionate about, both not even just with Vet Tix, like as the chief strategy officer, I would imagine communication and marketing and, communicating with people for the foundation and organization is super huge. But I feel like as a person, that's just like your passion.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, and you get it, you understand it, because it's about engagement, and it is a two-way, street process. And sometimes, how you communicate things, what you think, goes back to Napoleon's corporal, and what you think you're saying and what's being received is very different. And so, and that's with us in the military. I mean, we are so stereotyped, and especially Marines, we're so stereotyped as, yeah, these mouth breathing knuckle draggers that don't understand, unless there's a, edible crayon in front of us, as the reward. But really, and the, in the private sector, they have a different view of us. They admire us, but it's kind of like, yeah, okay, yeah, you're good people. You put your lives on the line. You serve our country. But and so really communicating to them that, hey, we're people too. And that's the thing, is a lot of times, I mean, even though you have military installations that are, in a community, a lot of times those families, those military members, they kind of stay, even, maybe they're even living off base, but they tend to gravitate, inside the wire of that facility or that installation. And when they venture off into, community events or things like that, there's a lot of times where the stereotypes come out from the community or whatever. And so I always try and communicate to people that, hey, I mean, we're the same. We're the same as all of you, but we just wear a uniform. We do a different job, and we live a different life. But we run into the same problems, challenges, things that everybody else in the community does.
Yes, that's so interesting. You say that because literally, like, I have said to my Marines before, I am no more qualified. I am no more intelligent or capable. I just have a different job. I just wear a different thing on my collar. And that just means I have a different scope of responsibility. So every single person is very important and valuable to this team. So yeah, it's so interesting. What would you attribute this calling of yours to? I know we kind of touched on, you have a logistics background, and you brought up something I never even realized about being that support minded person. That's our job as logisticians, is we're supporting whatever people need, we give. But then translating that into your passion to help others. What would you attribute that to?
Well, and it's funny because we as logisticians, we're givers, right? I mean,
Yes.
that's our job. It's not to say no, but sometimes we have to, right? And it's always great when the commander understands, like, says to the loggy, it's like, is this supportable? No. Why not? Well, because you get it, and then the commander's like, okay, and pivots, and what's going to be supportable. So, but we're so ingrained to saying yes, and being the givers and supporters. And but I mean, in the military in general, that's who we are. I mean, we win wars, we break things, and on all that other stuff. But and a lot of cats, a lot of guys and girls, they get out and they're looking for that purpose, and they get, when they can't find it, they get lost, and that's when they get despondent. They start getting introverted and they can't find something that fulfills them, and it's very endemic among veterans. And I was very fortunate because I found Vet Tix, and I mean, it was a great way how that came about. But I was working for other nonprofits, other veteran nonprofits, and the things I do in the community. But it's once again, it's expectation management of finding what fulfills you, and going back to the plan, put a plan together, and be be concise about it. But and it doesn't happen overnight. It takes work, and that's one of the biggest things. We in the military are so good at working. right? It's like you went to, you went to boot camp or, OCS or TBS or, and then, fall on school and build these relationships with your peers, your brothers and sisters. And then, you're at Lejeune, but your buddies at, Miramar or whatever, and you need something and you do the hookup thing and you can do it across country and, even in Okinawa, right? But then when we get out, or our brothers and sisters get out, sometimes we cut those ties with them. It's like, oh, so and so went to the other side, they got out, they're dirty now. But meanwhile, they got out, they're crushing it on the outside. Now you get out and you're like, what do I do or whatever, and you kind of lost those networks. And so it's really about maintaining those networks, not only while you're in uniform, but when you get out, because you never know where that job opportunity is going to come from somebody. I mean, I can't tell you how many people I've connected that have, that have gotten jobs because I knew this person and connected them with that person. And in the private sector, I mean, that's how business works. And we do it in the military, but when we get out, I think we just, some of us just wash our hands of those networks we've built while we were in uniform.
I'm so glad you brought that up because you described yourself as a connector, which I'm like all the light bulbs and fireworks in my brain, like were going off when you said that, because that's how I kind of like to think of myself too. That's like my calling that I have is I love, my whole saying is like, if I can't give you an answer, it's my job to find the answer. If I don't know it, like, gosh darn it, I will find you an answer if it kills me. Like right now, someone is trying to get in touch with a '06 someone in the Navy, a female '06 in the Navy who's in the medical community. And so help me, I'm trying to find this person for her and I am not sleeping until I do. But, I do think connecting people is so interesting. And I like to talk about the importance of finding mentors and not being afraid to have your peers be mentors. I'm in the same situation right now where, I'm kind of dealing with this, crossroads in my career of if I should get out, stay in, this and that. And so I am finding myself asking my peers who have done one or the other. And that's a great source of information. And I preach that to others, like your peers are very valuable. So hold on to those connections. And, I just talked to someone literally today, was in my TBS class. And I was like, hey, I need you to go look at a property for me, and without a hesitation, he's like, send me the listing. I haven't talked to him in a few years, but know that tie, that brotherhood, sisterhood is so strong that I know I can call someone anywhere in the world where they are, and they will do something for me. And I absolutely love that about the organization.
Well, okay. So let me ask you this, Jackie.
Uh-oh.
How did we get connected?
Through Parade Deck, right? Through Andrew,
Right.
I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
that's my point. It's like, I followed you on
Right.
social media. And, we got connected through Parade Deck because we both know Andrew and all that other stuff. And I was like, hey, I'd love to connect with Jackie. And, that's how it goes back to those degrees of separation. You never know who somebody knows, or 1 or 2 degrees of separation. And, to your point about, your TBS buddy looking for just eyes on a property. I mean, that's how you utilize, those networks.
And I think tying it back to even like with Vet Tix and growing that organization, like I'm sure, marketing is very important. And I'm sure, like getting the right posts and this and that, the emails. But like at the end of the day, I would have to assume that it's so successful and has 1.8 million members is what you told me, because of the experiences that people have and the word of mouth and saying, hey, I had this wonderful experience through Vet Tix. Have you, and that's how things catch on and how things last so long or successful. So I would think that, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what I would see, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So in some ways, like for what I do, at Vet Tix, sometimes like I'm talking to somebody and they're like, hey, you know what? I know so-and-so and they work for, or they're connected with XYZ team, sports team, or, venue or whatever. And I'm like, I got to put you in touch. And I mean, that's happened where we've, got together, got on a Zoom call or, lunch, or that person's like, you know what, I've got season tickets, or, I work for XYZ team, and, we need to start donating to you. Right. So there's that piece. And then, on the member aspect, it's like, and we see this on our social media, Facebook, it's like, dude, they tag somebody, it's like Vet Tix, with their friend that, they want their friend to know about Vet Tix because they want to share that, that good, that good gouge, that good nugget. And then, so that person signs up, and, it's just that whole trickle down. And like I said, I mean, this testimonial I read today that my boss and our founder sent to us, and I'll forward it to you, Jackie. It's like tears. Okay. And I'll send this to you, do with it what you want. You feel free to post it. But if this dude, didn't, if it wasn't for Vet Tix, he would be in really bad shape. And that's just one of those things where you never know how these experiences impact people downstream.
Yeah. It's that the butterfly effect, and the analogy that you gave me was the pebble, dropping the pebble in the water and the ripples. Like we don't know what can happen. Yeah, that's so wonderful. So my question for you is, looking back in time, are you doing like what you thought you'd be doing when you're like growing up and you're like, this is what I want to be when I grow up? Is that what you're doing now?
Yeah. And looking back in time, I've had a lot of time to look back, right?
Looking back on the decades.
Yeah, I'm old AF, right? But and that's where, I had plans. I mean, we talked about yesterday. I mean, I thought I was going to be 20 years in the Marines, get out, crush it, do all this other stuff. And it didn't happen that way. And did I ever think that I was going to be like, in this position, working for an awesome nonprofit? No, not at all. I mean, and that was where, like, for me, it was like when I got out, I was actually, it was in logistics in the private sector, doing things. And there came a point where it was like, man, I'm tired of being the guy that gets yelled at for everything that goes wrong. And, even though, we're these, wizards and make things happen and everything like that, I got to a point where it's, maybe it was burnout or whatever, but it was like, I want to do something different. And that takes courage to make a career change. But once again, it's networking. I mean, I got this opportunity at Vet Tix through networking. And I met with the leadership, the founders, and over time we've built a relationship. And they, the founder, our CEO, Mike Focoretto, who's a Navy veteran, he was like, he approached me, and he sent me a text. He's like, we're looking for a strategy guy. Are you interested? And I was, so you never know what happens, and those relationships and those networks that you build and you sow down the road, because once again, in the military, we kind of know to a degree, what our career progression is going to be if we stay in, right? It's like, okay, well, I'm due for orders and I have a good idea of where I'm going to go, but the field you're going to be in, or whatever, right? So you kind of know for the next couple of years what your career path is going to be. But it's always great to have the flexibility. And in your case too, it's like, do I want to, you're at a crossroads, you're coming up on a crossroads. Do I stay or do I go? But it's great to have those types of options. And I mean, I'm sure you've seen it, you've done it. I've re-enlisted Marines that they were literally crying at their re-enlistment ceremony because they were like, I've got 3 more years, right? And because they were scared to death of getting out. And that's a terrible position to be in. And I seen retirement ceremonies, because once again, I was a hybrid. I'm a reservist. I was a reservist. I led a double life. But I mean, I saw dudes, 06s, 05s, E8s, E9s at their retirement ceremonies. And there was tears of joy, but there were more tears of fear, because they had no freaking idea what they were going to do. And these are 50 whatever year old men and women that have led, done amazing things in combat or whatever. And they've got no freaking clue what they're going to be doing in the next 2 to 3 months. And that's scary.
Yeah. Have you seen the movie White Christmas? The
Which
Bing
one is that?
Crosby movie? It's like an old movie. Anyway, there's a song. It's like set in like World War II, and there's a song in it called like "What Do You Do with a General?" Like when he retires. And it's like a really sad song. It's like my whole family, we always get really sad when we hear them sing this song. It's like an upbeat, like old Bing Crosby song, but it's like this actually really makes me sad because they're like saying that he's like useless after living. um, but anyway, so I guess at this point, can you if people want to get involved with Vet Tix, either sign up or just get more information, what should they do?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about Vet Tix, it's go to our website, vettix, vettix.org. And if for first responders, it's 1sttix.org. And they're literally the same organization on on the back end. It's the same thing, but go to the website, check it out. And I guarantee you, if you don't know about Vet Tix, your friends do. And it's free to sign up. You create an account, and we don't say, hey, Jackie, we see you signed up and it's been a year and you haven't put in for anything. If you don't attend something, we're going to drop you. It doesn't work that way. I mean, because we know that there's people that are waiting for the right event, maybe to go to, or they haven't seen anything they want to go to. So it's really cool. And the cool thing about it is like, it's kind of like in a way, like the single Marine program, like the SMP, in some ways, right? Because it's like, hey, you're single or whatever, you get a couple tickets, you bring your buddy to, concert or, whatever. I mean, we have tickets to the Super Bowl, World Series, things like that. So, check it out, and what have you got to lose? And like I said, it's a great way to meet friends that you otherwise may not have done. And for us, we just get to give back. I mean, that's what we want to do. We want to pay it forward, and we're very fortunate because we're able to in this way.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been such a pleasure talking with you. I'm so honored to have met you, and it's awesome to have partnered with you for this episode. Thank you so much for everything. And yeah, thank you.
Well, and thank you for having me. And like I said, I'm very honored to be the first. And good luck with your future podcasts. And I will obviously be tuning into those. And I know that they're only going to get better. But what you do through this and your social media, I mean, that's how you're paying it forward. I mean, you serve as a role model, as an inspiration to a lot of people. And there's always haters out there, and water off a duck's back for those. But what you're doing, you found a passion and you've been able to harness it. So very cool. So I'm very very honored to be a part of this. Thank you.
All right. Well, that concludes this episode with Steve. Thank you again. I look forward to next week. Please tune in next Wednesday for The More You Give. I'm Jackie Barnum. Thanks.